In the Talk to Me program, we received 40 hours of training about mental health issues. And through this program, we learned about ways to be a supportive friend and how to talk to people who may come to us for assistance or comfort when going through a demanding stage in their life. It was a program that made us think innovatively about how to deal with mental issues and how to better promote this within our school. I think it was a good program because it equips students with the tools to deal with mental health issues within our school. We would like to thank Cindy from Kelly, who was one of our trainers who is here this evening, and Sky, who oversaw this project.
Hi, actually I have a really loud voice, so I'm just going to stand here. Is that okay? Hi everyone, my name is Sky Sue and I'm the Executive Director of Kelly Support Group. You may have heard of us, we are a youth organization here, and it was actually our utmost privilege to work with this group of young people to run the Talk to Me program. The idea of the program really was just to help them to know how to be a better friend to their peers. And I think that that's something that everybody's really been thinking about and wondering about as well. And I won't talk too much because I think that they will share more about it. But we just wanted to say thank you. This project wouldn't have been able to happen if it wasn't for the support of the WEES project as well. And also, of course, Claire and the administration at West Island. And we're really excited actually to see all the things that have happened from these projects. And all we did was give these young people skills, knowledge, and then they did the rest for their community. So we're really excited. And also just one last thing, I know that a lot of it, tonight, those of you who are here, you made a small donation, and the money is actually going towards another joint mental health project that Kelly Support Group is doing together with Mind Hong Kong. That project is called Cool Minds, and it's a whole school approach that we are rolling out in Hong Kong, and hopefully doing a bit of piloting in the next year. So if you're interested, please let me know, and I'd be happy to tell you more about it. But anyway, thank you, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the evening.
As a group, we have collaborated with the student community, teachers, counselors, and health professionals at school. Our aim is to keep the conversation alive regarding mental health and wellness, provide support, inspiration, and useful tips and advice on keeping ourselves healthy.
Today we held our first ever live stream event for the school community, where a panel of experts shared their knowledge and understanding about mental health and well-being. We're really grateful for our panel members for giving up their time this evening and this afternoon.
So, a very warm welcome to the first in the WIS Talks Mental Health and Wellness Parent Forum. We are delighted that you can join us this evening. During this week, we are opening up this discussion about mental health at West Island School, so we can develop a shared understanding of what is a good mental health and well-being.
A few weeks ago, we asked all West Island students, what do you want to know about mental health? We had a fantastic response, and we are really fortunate to have a panel of health experts with us today to help us respond to these questions. We recognize that each individual question could form the basis for an entire presentation, so it is fair to say that tonight we will be scratching the surface with the time we have available. The questions asked provide a valuable insight into our students' curiosity about mental health issues, along with their understanding of this huge topic. As we can only answer a selection of questions tonight, we will return to these questions across the year through a series of podcasts. There will also be an opportunity to take some questions from the audience later.
Before we start, let me introduce our panel of experts. We have Badma Barbani, a clinical counsellor at Central Minds, John Shanahan, an education and development psychologist at Central Health Partners, Southside Family Medical Practice, Dr. Amanda Oswald-Fisher, a clinical psychologist at Scott Center, Kimberly Carter, a clinical psychologist at Mind and Life Private Psychology Practice, and Scarlett Matoli, a clinical psychologist, doctoral intern and psychotherapist at Sinamo Group. Biographies and contact details of each of our panelists will be circulated via email following this evening's forum.
So the first question that we want to ask is, what is meant by the term mental health? Why is it important to be aware of it? and how does it impact our daily lives?
I guess I can kick off. So mental health essentially refers to a state of psychological, social, and emotional well-being. It impacts everything that we do, how we feel, how we think, how we behave. And essentially it's about feeling good about ourselves, whether we value ourselves, accept ourselves, have the ability to cope with stressors, we can work productively, engage in our communities, and build and maintain relationships with others. I think that's what I would think about as mental health.
I think it's also important to be aware that there's no healthy or unhealthy necessarily. It's a Likert scale. There's fluctuation throughout the day, throughout the year, throughout the week, and all of us feel stressed out or angry or have negative self-talk every once in a while. I think the term mental health really addresses it. To be healthy is to be able to bounce back, what we mean by resiliency, right? To be able to combat that negative self-talk or stressors in our life. So there is no all good or all bad. I think it's if you're feeling down most days of the week, and if it doesn't seem related to a specific event, then there's likely a cause for concern, and that's when you should be seeking professional support.
When do emotional difficulties like stress, anxiety, and depression become a mental illness? And is it possible to reverse the effects of mental health issues?
I think mental health is on a continuum. So it's kind of, as Amanda was saying, it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to feel anxious. The problem is kind of when you get stuck there, when you can't kind of come back to that kind of place. That's when it becomes, I guess, more of an issue. And when the stress you're feeling, or the emotions that are too powerful, and you're kind of stuck in that place, that can really impact your well-being, obviously. You start to lose your motivation, you might have a harder time making decisions, your memory might be impaired. All those kinds of things are really good signs that maybe the emotions that you're experiencing are in excess of what they should. I think that's the important thing, is when you get stuck in that place and you can't use your brain as you usually do.
The second part of that is how can you get better, and is it possible to get better from mental health disorders? Absolutely. Once you have had depression, it doesn't mean you're always going to be depressed. You can recover from mental illness, let's say, obviously on a case-by-case basis, but most people do. Throughout treatment, you learn different coping skills. You learn what triggers you, how you ended up in that unwell place, and what skill set and what environment you need to thrive. I think that's part of the therapeutic process and educational processes like this.
And I think the great thing about adolescents is that they're trying on different roles, they're figuring out who they are and how they feel about things. So they often go to extremes and figuring this out. It's all part of a journey. And so it's really important to allow them to have that journey and to figure out where they stand in the world.
I would just say another way to kind of figure out what's problematic anxiety and stress and sadness and non-problematic is if it starts to disrupt your daily functioning and daily life. So the things that you can normally do, getting up in the morning, if that becomes harder, or if it becomes harder to concentrate at work or at school, if it starts becoming a problem, disrupting daily living, daily function, that's when it's problematic.
I have two questions here. Firstly, why is it important to overcome any stigma associated with mental health issues? And secondly, how do you manage cultural difference when talking about mental health?
Excuse me, it's very difficult to hear all of you, so maybe we can turn up the volume on the speakers a little bit.
Firstly, why is it important to overcome any stigma associated with mental health issues? And second, how do you manage cultural difference when talking about mental health?
Is that better? Yes. Yeah. Thank you for letting us know.
So in terms of, can you hear me now as well? In terms of why it's so important to overcome stigma, so I think there are two kinds of stigma. There's stigma from others and then self-stigma. And both are really important to overcome because both prevent people from seeking help that they need. So when we have stigma around mental health issues, when it's taboo to talk about mental health, then it prevents us from seeking help. And if you have self-stigma, what that means is, you think that having a mental health issue means that there's something wrong with you. And so on top of having a mental health issue, there's this double kind of pressure that you have on yourself of thinking that there's something wrong with you, which can amplify the mental health issue.
And just to add to that, part of that recovery from it, when we have the stigma there, is talking about it, like we are today, putting it on the public, making everyone aware, and making it a clear agenda item so that no one's afraid to approach any subject. Because a lot of people do hold it inside, and when we do hold it inside, it festers, and by the time it comes out, it is a mental health problem. If we talk about it beforehand, we cut it off before it ever gets there. And I personally work with a lot of cultures in Hong Kong, as we all do, and we can see that those differences are stemming from people's belief systems as well. We're not trying to change a belief system, but if everyone can find the way that they're comfortable to speak about it or address it, we're moving forward.
And I think on top of that, talking about a mental health issue, talking about these things with your teens and adolescents, talking about cutting and suicide and all of these taboo subjects doesn't mean that you are creating an issue. These subjects are not being talked about on a daily basis. We know because you guys have asked these questions. So being able to have these open conversations, not just about mental health, but about just general adolescent life and the things that concern them, making it less taboo so that they have the facility and the ability to talk to you and know that nothing's off the table.
What do you do if you want to talk to your parents, but if you would think it would make things worse, either because you are burdening them with your problems, or you think it would cause more problems?
I would bring this back to the parents. I think if the teen is concerned about their parents' reaction, then I think all parents need to reflect on how they can support their teens better. It's really hard as a parent myself. We want to fix their problems. We want to give them advice. We want to say, if you just listen to me sooner, this wouldn't be an issue. But really, what our kids need is for us to just listen and say, we'll figure it out together. We'll figure it out together. So knowing that nothing is taboo and knowing that mom and dad aren't there to fix it, but just to listen and to hear you. I mean, as a parent, we're here to witness our kids' lives, right? We're their fairy godmothers, right? And we want to convey that to our kids that they're accepted no matter what.
And I'd also say there's a lot of fear around talking about your own problems. And the way mental health issues generally work is they are very isolating. And I think the scariest first step for a lot of people is the vocalization. And sometimes when your thoughts come alive with words, it's very powerful for you to realize, wow, I can't believe that was a thought that was harboring in my mind. And I think sometimes you only realize what's happening internally with external reaction, right? Because you can have this thought, and I think sometimes the thoughts that you have are just so negative, and when you voice that and you see the reaction that other people have, I think a lot of the time it surprises you how much people do care, because these illnesses and disorders are very isolating.
Just to add a thought about generational differences, I know that when I grew up, there were things that we didn't talk about, and I'm just looking at the students today and how brave they are to come out here and speak about it. Even that discomfort that we might have as parents from a different generation, and how quickly they're maturing and changing, that can be a barrier. Understand that they really do have a different outlook on the world than we might. Go ahead and give them the benefit of the doubt and listen to what they have to say sometimes.
What is the link between physical and mental health? How do physical factors such as exercise, diet, and sleep affect your mental health?
Quite a lot. There's a massive link between physical health and mental health. And I think it's really, really important to pay attention to the really simple things. So many times when I'm working with clients, it's the really basic things that can actually make a huge difference. So making sure that someone's getting adequate sleep. When I do talks with secondary school students, nearly 90% of them probably underslept. And so many times I get kids coming to see me presenting with attentional difficulties or other mental health difficulties. At the end of the day, it just comes back to sleep deprivation. If you think about the symptoms of something like ADHD or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, the symptoms overlap significantly with insomnia or sleep deprivation. So sometimes it's those simple things like sleep that make a huge impact on your mental health. And food is a huge one as well. I think right now it's so easy to access unhealthy food. And I think that has a major impact on mental health issues. There was a study that came out, I think earlier this week actually, that was looking at taking poo from people who are schizophrenic and putting it into rats, and it triggered the same symptoms as schizophrenia. And that's because it was encouraging this growth of different bacteria in the gut. So a lot of people now are looking at the type of food that we eat and the impact it's having on the microbiome within the gut and how that influences mental health, which I find fascinating. Really, really interesting. There's a guy on the podcast I listen to, he went to live with a tribe in Africa, and he started putting their poo inside his lung, and it completely changed his mental health. He became much stronger, his immune system was increased and everything.
What are you recommending, John? What are you recommending?
Look at that. But again, it's incredible how that can have an impact on your mind. That something down in your gut can have such an impact on your mind. It's incredible. And then physical health obviously is a huge factor because that releases endorphins and makes you feel good, makes your brain work more efficiently and effectively. And again, I think a lot of people under exercise as well. And again, one of the best kind of treatments, if you will, for anxiety and depression is eating well, getting in the sun, exercise, and sleep well. If you can do those things, you're already kind of going to have a big gain in kind of treatment.
To harp on about exercise, if you do a cardio exercise or cardio activity 3 times a week for 6 weeks, it has very similar effects to antidepressants. And I think especially as a teenager, when you're learning as your body's changing and you can see what your body's capable of, and it's a time where you can see how effort changes outcome, and it's a very good antidote to social media and everything that's happening there. Also, like you said, the more we exercise, we get these endorphins, and it's a gateway positive health mechanism, which I think we all support here. And obviously nutrition, I think we know enough about the research now. Anyone who says, oh, nutrition doesn't affect me, is like, you just see what happens after people have muffins the size of their faces, right? Their behavior changes, has all of this energy, and it's, yeah.
I'll go back to food as well, not as fun a fact as John has about food and nutrition, but just to say that it's also been found that 95% of the serotonin in our body is actually in our gut. And serotonin is a chemical that is one of the happy chemicals in our body that produces positivity, feelings of happiness. And so again, really important that we're getting the right nutrition to our gut so it can produce that chemical.
Just add on sleep as well, because it's the only time your body has to repair itself. First part of sleep is about repair and recovery, and growth, only time growth, when one comes out and really does a great job. And teens are doing that last spurt. And the other part of sleep is about cognitive consolidation. They're getting ready for exams, they're trying to learn new things. If they don't get both parts of sleep in one long stretch, the body's not prepared for the next day. They're not prepared to go off and tackle new things. They're not even ready to learn yet. So an important part of it, definitely, I think sleep is key.
It is. Your kids need about 9 hours of sleep every night, but unfortunately they're nocturnal, so they usually like to go to bed later. And it has a significant impact on working memory and processing sleep. So if you're not processing quickly, you're not learning at the rate your teachers are teaching, and you're probably not making wise choices, and you're not able to sustain attention. So it does have an impact on your grades as well.
Why does there appear to be more mental health difficulties now than in the past?
Awareness. I think there's no more, I'm guessing, but we will never know because there were a lot of people who weren't open about their mental illnesses or difficulties or their negative talk, self-talk. So I would like to believe that a lot of this is awareness, also considering our diet and lifestyle. but I think a lot more people are talking about this.
I'd also say there's never been a time in history where there's been a bigger demand for our attention. You turn on your phone and it's so hard to look away from your phone. There's screens everywhere. So our sensory system is bombarded with information. And I think, and we have this weird time where no one is comfortable being bored. You get into an elevator, it's a 30-second trip at max. Good luck being occupied, not on your phone. People are incapable of sitting with boredom. And when our brain has nothing to do, it does a really good job of cleaning itself and sorting out information. And we've lost that. So I think, and obviously a lot of mental health issues stem from, it starts with our thoughts, right? And being able to understand which thoughts are helpful and which thoughts aren't helpful. And the less attuned we are to that, the more vulnerable we are to mental health issues. So I think it's a mixture of diet, it's a mixture of where we are as a society too.
Going off what Kim said, that they've done studies where people would rather administer themselves shocks than be bored, because we just want to stimulate our brain so that we don't have to be alone with our thoughts. So I think challenging ourselves with boredom, that's where creativity and mind mapping comes.
Yeah, I think it's a whole combination of variables. It comes back to the variables we were talking about, sleep and exercise and diet, and also the preoccupation with screens and never really having that downtime. But I also think there are more kind of systemic issues. So I think as a human race, we kind of really come into the city more and more, so we have less contact with nature. I think that has a major impact. If you look at the more successful kind of therapeutic programs, most of them are based in nature. And I think that's a major impact. There was a little study done on a maximum security prison where they looked at prisoners who faced a courtyard, a concrete courtyard, and then prisoners who faced kind of a forest. And the ones who faced the concrete courtyard were like 80% more likely to have mental health illness than the ones who are facing trees. And that shows you just how important it is to have that connection with nature. And I think nowadays, especially somewhere like Hong Kong, it's really quite hard, and it shouldn't be, because right up the hill we have a beautiful country park. It's very hard to have that connection with nature. And I think pollution as well plays a big role in that. Whenever the pollution is really, really high, I think a lot of schools will often see a spike in behavioral difficulties, which I think is really interesting.
Has the number of people with mental health disorders gone up with social media, and how do we manage being online?
I don't know that I would necessarily correlate mental health with social media. I think they look like they belong together a lot of times. But I've seen a lot of good things come out of social media as well. And I heard my colleagues speaking about that today, so I just want to echo that. A lot of time online, yes, we're stripping ourselves of opportunities for learning, for sensory experiences. Children are not getting long-distance vision development. Yes, we're stripping ourselves of a lot of opportunities for typical brain development. Does that cause a loss of mental health? I don't know about that. I know that we certainly are missing some of our abilities, some of our sensitivities, and some of our skills that way. Does it cause depression? I'm not sure. But I certainly have seen more people who spend their time online and separated in a big city, not going out to country parks, feeling a lower mood. I can certainly concur that.
So the way a lot of social media platforms are set up, they're set up to consume you. So things like your social media feed, I spoke about this earlier today, like it never ends. You could spend all day on social media if you wanted to. Whereas traditional forms of media, like newspaper or print forms of media, there would be like an end of an article. And you're like, oh yeah, okay, now it's time to put down the magazine and go back to living my life. Whereas social media doesn't do that for you. You could be there all day. Also, the dopamine hits, which you get from likes. Human beings are ingrained to connect. We look for opportunities to connect. Social media provides that platform, but it's just the same thing as putting a coin in a slot machine. You post a picture up, and you want to go back and check. It's a random reward. Did I get 3 likes? Did I get 5 likes? How many likes did I get? I just want to know. And it's the same psychology with gambling. So it's definitely a relationship that I think is important to manage. The effects of which we don't know. The first mobile phone came out 10 years ago. It's your guys' generation who will be dealing with these after effects and the relationship with technology much more than us.
Yeah, I think talking about social media and the impact on mental health is quite complex. It's not that simple, but one way to look at it is that if could depend on how you use it. So if you use social media for connection versus comparison, people that use social media for connection, for finding a sense of community, maybe they feel isolated, that's the only way that they can feel connected. People with disabilities that don't have the ability to go out and stay home, that can be their only kind of source of community online world. At the same time, if what happens in social media is comparing your reality to someone else's kind of false reality, it can create these feelings of jealousy and envy, which can lead to anxiety and low self-esteem. And unfortunately, the way that human beings are wired, we're naturally wired to compare. And so that tends to happen on social media. It's a field ripe comparison.
And I think there's a lot of problems with self-editing as well, especially for adolescents, but for everybody, our executive functioning hasn't come online, so our impulse control and we don't think twice before we post something on Facebook or Snapchat, and it stays there. And there's this whole new wave of like online depression. If you haven't posted, then it didn't really happen, and it doesn't matter. And also, we're not self-editing when we are saying cruel things. Just like if we write an email, we might be a little bit harsher or more direct than what's necessary. And especially when our executive processing isn't online, and our hormones and our emotions are overriding the systems, we tend to say things that are quite hurtful, especially when it's not face-to-face. So WhatsApp and Snapchat are all really kindling for disagreements and for cyberbullying, or whatever term you want to call it.
What effect does mental health difficulties have on learning? For example, motivation, ability to focus, and burnout, and how can we manage it?
I think if you think of, kind of going back to what we were talking about with the first question, but if you think of kind of mental health or well-being as a continuum, when you're getting up to that point where you're feeling really down or really anxious, you're kind of under a huge amount of stress. When you're under that huge amount of stress, your human brain starts to stop functioning so well. And your monkey brain, kind of limbic system, which is kind of deep inside our brains, kind of left over from when we were monkeys in the savannas of Africa, that kind of takes over, it overrides us. So we get into this fight, flight, freeze kind of response mode. Our threat circuitry is triggered to kind of protect us. That was a really good thing back when we were in Africa, because if we saw like a saber-toothed tiger or a lion, our threat circuitry would trigger, and we would have really quick reactions, which is really, really good. Nowadays, we don't really have saber-toothed tigers so much, but what we have is these cognitive threats. The threat of kind of getting in trouble with parents, or the threat of having a big assignment that we can't finish, or an exam that's going on. And that triggers the same kind of response in our brain. Our threat circuitry goes online, and it basically stops our brain from working so well. Which is not a good thing, because our human brain is what we need when we're learning and studying and remembering things. So it actually reduces the amount of information we can learn. It impacts our ability to code information into our memories and all sorts of things. The other problem with when you're really down and anxious for a long period of time is your brain is flooded with cortisol, which is kind of a stress hormone. And when your brain's flooded with cortisol, it actually eats away your neurons, and so it kind of really degrades your brain, the health of your brain. So when you're under that kind of chronic high level of stress, that can be really, really toxic.
Just to add to that, motivation goes through a central pathway called the mesolimbic dopamine pathway. You don't get tested on that afterwards, but it runs through the prefrontal cortex. So the whole time when we have normal motivation, intrinsic motivation, I want to do well, it should be running through this part, which is trying to mature. So I'm motivated to do well on a test. Number 6, we're motivated to maybe do well with your teacher. As a teenager, you're motivated to do well on social media. But what happens is that system gets hijacked. All those dopamine neurons start firing only when certain things come up. And yes, that affects learning the day that we're more motivated to look at social media or anything else that comes up, or even just play sports, what we're trying to achieve in a classroom. So once we get that firing too many times, it then becomes what we call motivation salience, okay? And then once you do that too much, you can actually get to burnout, which I think was the third part of the question there, where you really aren't inspired by anything. So it affects learning, it affects your ability to communicate, it affects your ability to socialize. And it's all about overuse a little bit. But in an immature brain, it's really hard to get them to understand how to change it. So a lot of times putting barriers around it is probably the only way.
in the same way that the brain is affected by stress. Depression can also change the structure and the function of the brain. And so the size of the hippocampus, part of the brain responsible for memory, can actually decrease for people with depression, which can of course affect learning. Brain neuron size can also decrease in the prefrontal cortex, which again can affect thinking, planning, decision-making, and all those things that are cognitive processing, all those things associated with learning as well.
What is resilience, and how can parents foster this in their children?
You answered it so well earlier.
Well, resilience is the ability to bounce back from a challenge or a failure. It's not about, it's about how quickly we can pick ourselves up once we've fallen. It's not about not falling down, but just how quickly we can bounce back from it.
In this area, I also default to a psychologist called Carol Dweck, who looks at the difference between growth mindset and fixed mindset. And I think as parents, it's really important to reward effort and not outcome. And so other than saying, like, you're so good at maths, I think I love how hard you're working. I love how you're so self-motivated to allocate time to do your homework. And I also think resilience is, we learn from the people in our community. And so I think as a parent or as a person in education, it's important for children and young adults to witness like adults fail and how you cope with failure. And it's not the end of the world. Just because you made a mistake doesn't mean you're the mistake. It just means that didn't work and you continue to try harder or try something else. Really interesting research in that area where people who think that they're like natural born athletes. Michael Jordan said, like, I hate it when people call me a natural born athlete because it discredits all the hard work I do. And that's resilience. That's continuing to work hard.
I think parents can do a huge amount to enhance resilience in their kids and in themselves as well. And that's definitely like a full-on workshop or talk, because there's so many different things that the group of us can kind of talk to you about. But I think one of the big things is increasing awareness of triggers and when you are getting stressed. Because I think if you as a parent and kids themselves can be more aware of their emotional states or their mood states, then you can activate kind of the protective factors or strategies that you may have taught at school or in various other settings. So I think the awareness of triggers and the awareness of your mood states is really, really important. And I'm sure all of us are aware of big triggers. Something catastrophizing happens, and obviously that's going to, alert you that something's not quite right. But a lot of times it's kind of micro triggers that are happening throughout the day that are altering your mood states. And oftentimes it's really, really small, but it just shifts you to kind of a more anxious state, or a more happy state, or a more excited state. And being aware of those kind of micro shifts is really, really powerful, because then you can kind of catch what's going on. Then you can start to use your protective strategies or skills that you may have been taught to kind of make sure you are bouncing back before things kind of pile up and pile up and pile up, and you're kind of in a real kind of dark place.
And just to add to that, teenagers need the grace to fail. As Amanda said earlier, that they are going through personality development, and they need to go out and be, I'm going to use old terms, a goth one day, see how their friends respond to them, decide they don't like the way it feels, go home in their room and hide out for it, and try a different personality the next day. It takes a lot of courage to do that, to try on different things, and a lot of times just being allowed to fail is a little bit better than trying to control where it's headed.
How do arguments with my parents impact my well-being?
You guys don't like the answer. It's really good for kids to have open discussions with you. They're experimenting, they're figuring out who they are and how they feel about things. The only way they do that is by arguing. As children, their world revolves around you. You tell them they're the prettiest girl in the world, you tell them they're the best athlete, they believe you. The world revolves around them, they're perfect in every way. And then they go into adolescence and nothing you say matters because it's all about their peers. And that's normal. It makes us feel powerless as parents. But it's also a time when the pendulum is swinging. It's like everything revolves around you. Now everything revolves around them and their friends. And you're there to pick them up when things don't go the way they expect. So they're going to disagree with you. And the most important thing you can do is teach your kids how to disagree in a respectful way. We can have different beliefs, and that's really good and healthy. And if I can express my beliefs in a respectful way, and if I can change your mind, well, isn't that a powerful tool? Wouldn't you want to hire somebody like that who can get you to see their side of the story? That's what we want to encourage in our teens. So disagreements are really healthy. Arguments are when we name call, we blame, we call fault, even lazy, I think, is a name. There's a symptom, these are symptoms to something else. What is the underlying problem? And also, instead of giving advice, because as soon as you give advice, they actually have done MRI studies, as soon as you start lecturing adolescents, their brain goes offline. Like, you can see it in their eyes, and yet you still want to do it because we want to save them from themselves. We cannot. So it's just about saying, yeah, that's really hard. I see it. What do you think we can do about it? Or what are you going to do? Letting them go on their own journey and giving them the ability to express their own thoughts and feelings and have that discord, but in a healthy way. So disagreements are good.
I think they are good in moderation. I think obviously if you find yourselves consistently arguing and the intensity of the arguments is really extreme, then obviously that's going to have a real impact on your mental health. And kind of what I was saying earlier about the cognitive threats, what happens is if you, for example, shout at your son or your daughter, their amygdala, that kind of reactive part of their brain, tags you as a threat. So whenever they see you, their threat circuitry is always already starting to come online, which means their frontal lobe is already starting to shut down. And this is true of colleagues, friends, teachers, that kind of thing. But your amygdala will tag different people that they would perceive as threats. So if you're constantly arguing with them in an unhealthy manner, then it's just you're going to end in a bad way, because both of your brains are going to become monkey brains, and you're both going to be escalating one another. And you don't really get any healthy solution there.
And I always try to preach patience. Patience with parents who are sometimes frustrated. We've talked about this lack of prefrontal cortex development. Like, why doesn't she understand? It's like, well, because the brain doesn't have the capacity to understand that she's going to regret this in 3-4 years' time. Right? That's not there yet. And then I also tell the children that I work with to be patient with their parents, because a lot of these parents are figuring it out as they go too. And I think if everyone just took 6 deep breaths before an argument, some research shows that it actually takes 6 deep breaths to change your physiological state. So next time you notice someone annoying you, take those 6 deep breaths and be like, maybe they're trying to figure this out too. And maybe if we're all just a little bit more patient with each other, much easier for me to say sitting here rather than in the heat of the moment. And we approach arguments with like understanding, what are my parents trying to say, right, by telling me I can't do this. And the level of argument will be diffused a little bit.
I would also have that when arguments are left unresolved, what can happen is that the person walks away just kind of thinking and replaying and dialoguing what was said and what they said, what could have been said better, and that creates anxiety in the brain and the body as well. And if I remember being a kid and arguing with my parents before going to school, and thinking how awful it was. The rest of the school day was kind of ruined. I couldn't concentrate in class, feeling disappointed, feeling they were disappointed in me, and so I think when arguments are left unresolved in that way, it can have a really negative impact on mental health, on the rest of the day, on things like school, learning, participating in class. People can start to just isolate or withdraw just from kind of one argument in the morning with a parent.
And going off that, I think we all see a lot of families where, we're all born in our own little packages, and some kids' engines run really fast, and we're constantly having these arguments, and then it's unresolved, and then every morning you wake up and you're like, grinding your teeth knowing something's going to happen. So it's like these micro traumas where you're like, I know it happened last time, so it's going to happen again. And then your teen wakes up saying, I know they're going to make me mad again. And you find a reason. So these micro traumas kind of inform the day after the day after the day, and these patterns. So that's really where you can get some outside support to fix that. I think that happens quite often with the kiddos that we see.
And just to add on the back of that there's also the opportunity for repairing that relationship, even when it ruptures. And this was touched on in an earlier talk today, but I think it's really important. Arguments will happen. I think we're all designed to do that as teens and parents. It's part of the process. But being able to go in and say, I was wrong, I apologize. You're going to model, and as you model it, you will see it. If you model arguing, you will see more arguing.
Is it healthy for me to be around when my parents are fighting? Is it healthy for me to be around when my parents are fighting?
I think that question's got a lot of pieces to it. Is it healthy for me to be around when my parents are fighting? I like the question. I would be concerned though, because the first part of it is that you're a child in the home, and you don't have as much choice as you might like to have to leave that home. I don't know that children necessarily feel empowered to go and interrupt parents having an argument either. I would have to say first, no, it's not healthy to be around arguing people. We've already discussed that even just being around people who are in disagreement sets off our own systems in a way that does lead to cortisol and lots of other things. What to do about that, I'm not sure. I'll pass on to my colleagues.
I think modeling arguments or disagreements is really good. If there is a disagreement, to make sure that you apologize and show forgiveness and understanding. Showing that you can apologize as well is really empowering, because if parents can do it, then maybe I can, as your child, also do it.
There have been studies that have shown that the child's brain, when exposed to high-level conflict, it changes. I personally think that it's not healthy, especially the fights and arguments. I think I like the distinction Amanda made earlier between disagreements and arguments. Because we all disagree. You can't find someone who gets along with you all the time, not even pets, right? So it's very hard to, that's just, it's not going to work out. But I think it provides a good learning opportunity, but it's when the parental fights become contemptuous, and then children start to learn these manipulative ways, because couple dynamics can be very, very messy, as I'm sure we all know. Right? And these are not the kind of relationships you want to be modeling for your children. And I think as a child, for you to say, I don't want to hear you guys fighting, that takes a lot of strength, and that sets a different tone in the relationship, and maybe even brings to light something that your parents don't see.
Why is it I can be surrounded by people and still feel lonely?
I think most adolescents who come into my office say that. It's the big secret in life. Nobody knows what we're doing. And adolescents think that other people must have all the answers, and everybody else seems popular and seems to be doing well on tests, and I'm standing here while the world is passing me by. It's part of the process, and as an adult, we realize the big secret, but as an adolescent, nobody has the courage to let everybody in on it. There is that component, but there's also what we call disassociation, where it's almost like an out-of-body experience where you're kind of looking down on yourself and not in the present. And in that case, part of that's normal, but in other ways it can be all-consuming and create anxiety, and that's really when you should be asking for help as well.
I also think even if you're surrounded by people, if you're not connecting to those people, that's why you're feeling lonely. I think that connection piece is huge. So even in this room, if you're not connected to anyone who can sit next to you or have a relationship with them, it doesn't always have to be a really strong relationship, but if you're kind of isolated in a kind of school environment or any environment, that can really enhance your feelings of loneliness. Loneliness is a real problem. And there's lots of studies in geriatrics and loneliness and how this increases the rates of depression and lowers your life expectancy and stuff. So loneliness can be a real problem. But if you are feeling that way, then it's important to think about, okay, so how can I actually connect with people? Are there people in my peer group who I might be able to connect with and develop actually a meaningful relationship with? And I think that kind of links back to that social media piece where a lot of people maybe don't have strong social skills will often find it easier to connect through a video game or social media, which doesn't obviously replace a real face-to-face relationship and interaction.
To come back to connection, it's actually the strongest indicator of overall happiness, how socially connected we feel. And what John was talking about earlier, being connected to nature, that works too. And listening to something earlier about how you can be on the subway or be on an MTR and it's full of people and you don't feel connected, but then you go out into nature and you feel this sense of awe, something bigger than yourself, and that connection, which is a very good antidote and just for positive mental health. But I think, if you're feeling that way, thinking about what can you do to foster authentic connection, because it's so important to find that in some facet of your life.
I think it's really important, and I think a lot of kids are using social media to make that connection. And it just, kind of as I said earlier, it doesn't replace the real thing. Your brain doesn't hit the same hit dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin, so it doesn't have that same stimulation. This is, I think, one of the reasons a lot of people go down kind of the tech addiction or drug addiction kind of route. It's because they don't have connections. And as human beings, we need connection. We're kind of pack animals. Again, back in the savannas of Africa, if we were part of a tribe or a pack, we survived. If we were excluded from that, we died. And I think that's so important for kids nowadays and for adults as well, to have that real, authentic connection. We need it to function. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Sorry, that's really what I was going to say. And if you don't have that connection with humans, then you'll connect with other things. And it doesn't have to be a living being. It could be, as I said, kind of a drug or a video game and that kind of thing. And we will strive for connection regardless of kind of what it is. If we don't have that human connection.
I think it is important to have the connection. And just to point out, everyone's got a different kind of brain. Different parts of it are strong and other bits are a little bit weak. People who have weaker working memory, how to hold stuff in their hand for just a minute and look at it, manipulate it, put it back out, their social skills are a little bit weaker. So it is hard for them to make that connection, even in a room full of people. Everyone else seems to be moving at 1,000 miles an hour and they don't understand how to even get into it. So there's also other reasons why they might feel lonely, not being connected, not knowing how to connect, but also just a different brain that can't access it yet might leave you feeling lonely as well. As parents, know your child and help them with those skills if they're missing them.
What effect do friendship issues have on children's mental health, and how can I help my friend if I think they are struggling?
So, as a teen, your whole world is school, and the most important group is your social group. And so I know how one little friendship fracture can feel like your whole world is falling apart. And that's really tough. I don't minimize that issue at all. So that's why I always think it's important to have a diversity of identity. So you have your school identity and being involved in extracurricular activities outside of school, where there's more opportunity for social connection, more opportunity for you to see yourself as part of this different sports team where none of the people go to your school, you're part of this chess club, and so there's diversity of friends and friendship groups. So that's important. And in terms of how you can support your friends, I think we talked about this earlier, how just listening is really important. And I think there's an interesting difference between empathy and sympathy. Empathy is listening and meeting someone where they're at, whereas sympathy is this divide. It's wow, Jane's parents are getting divorced and I just feel so sorry for her, which it's not very helpful for Jane, as opposed to Jane, your parents getting divorced and how are you coping? Right? And listening to that. So little differences there. Karen, Maria?
Empathy doesn't have to mean that you feel the way that your friend is feeling. It can be something just like saying, that sounds really hard. I think as teens, we really strive to be the best friend ever possible. And it's really important for us to be good friends. And so we can really go the extra length and do a lot for our friends. some things that can be kind of unhealthy to do when you are helping your friends is kind of we have this misconception that in order to be a good friend, if someone's going through something, you have to be there for them 24/7. And that can be actually putting yourself at risk. You don't have to be there 24/7 to be a good friend to someone. In addition, sometimes you feel a little bit guilty if you're feeling good about something or you're experiencing happiness when you know that your friend, your best friend, is not in the same place. And again, just to say there's no reason, there's no need to feel guilty for your own happiness if your friend is feeling down. You can still own that for yourself.
Yeah, just like on an airplane, you put on your mask before the child. And I think teenagers, try and be the martyr and try and help their friends before they help themselves. And that's the blind leading the blind. And they're both going to run into a wall. It's to know your limits, and you can be empathetic and you can be supportive and you can be a good listener. But when something crosses the line, when somebody's safety or long-term well-being is at risk, that's when you need to know you ask for help. That's a good friend, is saying, out of my element.
Is self-harm or threatening self-harm a genuine sign of distress or just attention-seeking?
It's never just attention-seeking. I get this a lot from parents and actually from peers. If somebody is even threatening self-harm, that's a symptom. So nothing is just attention-seeking. If I'm seeking attention in this manner, that means there's a problem. That means I'm not able to communicate what I want or how I feel or how to advocate for myself. So even if you think it's superficial or if you're concerned that they're just trying to make something a catastrophe, they're saying, listen to me, I have something that needs to be heard. And even if they don't want to talk to you, you can say, I have somebody to talk to. I'm listening, I can see your suffering, and I understand that you don't want to talk to me, I know somebody else, whether it's one of us. But making sure you get the support for them. Nothing should ever be just blown off as attention-seeking. That's how lives are lost. We take everything seriously. That doesn't mean we're emotive and like, oh my gosh, baby, what's wrong? It's like, wow, this is serious. You clearly want me to know this is happening. What can I do? Let's do this together. We're in this together.
I have to concur. Talking about it, bringing it out there, letting it in the open, it's always serious. There's always something there that they can't verbalize. And when we have children who are internalizing, they're taking it all on themselves, they don't have any other way to release this pent-up soup of chemicals, of fears, of thoughts. And it is the only way that they can start feeling again. Once we get enough cortisol into our system, sometimes we need to actually do something to feel, literally, and take our attention away from what's going on in here. Even if they're threatening, thinking about it, or you see one thing, pay attention. And I agree 100%. If you don't know how to deal with it, you probably don't. I hope that some of you are trained mental health professionals. If you're not, it's okay too. Say that to your child or the student or the friend or whomever else and say, I don't know what to do here. This feels really big. Let's go find someone who does know. 100% agree.
Yeah, I think that's true of self-harm and those kinds of behaviors, but any kind of behavior really. If you think of behavior as an iceberg, a lot of times we're just focusing on the tip of the iceberg, the iceberg is above the water. And that could be the self-injurious act, or trying out different drugs, or having arguments, or basically any kind of behavior you can imagine. But a lot of time we need to focus under the water and think about what's going on underneath that behavior that's triggering. And as these guys kind of talked about, oftentimes there's something going on that's hard for them to express. But focusing on that, what's under the water, is often much more beneficial than focusing on the actual specific behavior.
Are there support groups in Hong Kong?
Yeah, I think there are. I think there probably could be more. I think we all come from different private practices and we have a range of different support groups, but I think we've all found it's quite hard to get support groups that run consistently. I think it's changing now because of the good work that the Silence Schools doing around destigmatization. But I also think a lot of the schools are running groups as well, which is really, really helpful. But Sky was talking about this earlier. The mindhk.org website is a fantastic resource for kind of learn more about the signs and symptoms of mental illness or difficulties and how you can actually support it. And obviously Kelly is a fantastic resource as well.
I know Focus is a really good one for the parents. We also have it's for younger kids up to age 12, Asperger's support group, and then an anxious girls support group and an LGBTQ for older kids.
We would like to take this opportunity to take a few questions from the audience.
Thank you. In your work with adolescent teens, have you found any gender differences in terms of the way boys and girls cope with mental health issues?
Girls tend to internalize and boys tend to externalize, but we're finding more and more that, especially with the non-binary, there's a whole another conversation. But usually girls tend to internalize, so you see more cutting, you see more eating disorders, anxiety, that sort of thing. And boys, even with depression and anxiety, you see they sometimes tend to externalize, so they might look oppositional. But really, they're not being patient and kind to themselves, so they're not able to be patient and kind to others.
Yeah, I would agree with Amanda, but I also find, I've been doing this for quite some time in Hong Kong, and I find that the gender stereotypes Amanda described are becoming much more blurred. So I'm finding a lot of guys are presenting more like with the internalizing things, and they're resorting to kind of self-harm, like Amanda was saying the girls will often do, and the girls are often sometimes shift into what the boys stereotypically would do as well. So I think there are definitely differences, but I feel like they're getting smaller and smaller.
It was mentioned earlier today that you can go on the internet and find just about anything you want. I think Amanda had said it. And if these children have it in mind, they can go and get literally training on it. So it's not gender anymore. It's literally about what are they trying to seek. And I think it is starting to spread between the two more than it is sticking with one gender, one culture, or anywhere else.
And I think there's this misunderstanding with especially adolescents that, they're not depressed. I see them hanging out with their friends, they're totally fine. So even boys and girls, especially adolescents, you can see they can code switch very quickly when they're with their peers, but that doesn't negate the fact that they might be suffering on the inside.
Yeah, I think teenagers in particular, and adults as well, but teenagers in particular are extremely good at masking things. Most of my clients, the school would never know that they're being depressed or suffering extreme anxiety because they put it on this great face. And I think that's quite common in teenagers and adults. When you are experiencing mental illness, it's really, really hard to obviously keep the mask, but a lot of people will. And that kind of goes back to the stigma that's kind of attached. And again, it's changing because of all the great stuff that's kind of happening across the world.
Hello. What will be your professional advice to the teens who has to deal with toxic friends who encourage you like self-harm, vaping, and drinking alcohol and stuff like that? Because it's like a classmate you cannot avoid to stay away from these friends, for example. So I just want to know what you do outside.
You're wondering, what do we do about the kids who are not really the influence we want our children to have?
I would start by instilling some curiosity about the friend and having your child think critically about why that friend's acting that way and having them observe what's making them make those decisions and what the after effect is. And I think that kind of observation allows children to take a step back from their own experience and be like, oh, what does this behavior look like, or what does this friendship look like when I'm not in the equation, right? And which is obviously hard to do. And I think it's a difficult one to parent. Let me think a little bit more about that.
They kind of need to make their own mistakes. You guys know that as soon as you tell them not to do something, they're going straight for it. So having that open dialogue, like Kim said, you just have to allow them to explore what are their friends' motives, but also what are your motives? What are you getting out of this relationship? And how do you feel after you walk away from that at the end of the day? Are you feeling jealous? Are you feeling lesser than? Are you feeling competitive? Or, is that something that you think is motivating? And likewise, do you feel like it's gaining popularity or you're risk-taking and that's exciting? And why is it that you feel like you need to risk-take? What other components are missing in your life that maybe we can figure out how you can form an identity that you can feel proud of? But it's an ongoing open dialogue. Really, you can't directly necessarily talk about it, what's wrong with this friend, but it's more like, what are you getting out of any relationship? And what are their motives?
And I think labeling what you see without judgment. Like I noticed whenever you come back from spending time with Sarah, that it's really hard for me to talk to you. And I think, and just leave it at that, right? And it's not a judgment, it's not an argument, it's just you labeling what you can see. And I think bringing that as well to your child's awareness in a, obviously, with an age-appropriate language.
Yeah, hi. Are you finding that many children are getting worried about the climate change and pollution and issues like that? Are they getting stressed out and they're feeling helpless, they can't do anything about it?
I think so, yeah. That's a good question coming from you, Paul. But yeah, I think climate change is a huge problem. I think those big issues, especially with and I guess this is one of the benefits of social media, is you kind of are bombarded with kind of world news. I think Trump also had a big impact. It was great for my business, Trump getting president.
I'm hiding under some kid's bed right now.
Yeah, but seriously, those things are really, I think they have much more of an impact on teenagers than on adults, which is really sad, because I think if they had the same impact on adults, then we'd actually be able to do something about it.
But it's also where they're at biologically. There's this huge emotional surge, and a lot of teenagers have this realization of all the things that they can feel and their interconnected nature to the world. And so I think, and that's why activist groups are banned in the UK from advertising around university proximities, because they are a vulnerable population, because they're very emotionally manipulated by such causes. But obviously environmental change is something that's exceedingly important, arguably the issue of our generation and our time now. So if it's causing mental health problems, or is that energy being channeled into something productive and something helpful? And that's where adults can support.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts about all this. Just one question. How do you cope, or how do you go about helping your child who has an immediate member of family with mental illness?
I think that's a really good question. I think one of the big things is kind of along the lines of destigmatization, is actually talking about it and explaining kind of what it looks like when you're having kind of a dark day or a bad day, what those kind of signs and symptoms look like, so that your son or daughter can kind of recognize when you're in not a very good place, and maybe even talking to them about what strategies or skills they can help you with or remind you to use when you're in that dark place. But I think that normalization piece is really key, because it reframes how they see your behavior. So it's not just, Mom's avoiding me or being difficult, it's, this is the way she's feeling, and these are some things that I can do to really help her out. Or this is the person I need to contact, maybe I need to contact my parent's therapist, or a doctor, or a colleague, or spouse. I think that's really good. It's really empowering as well if you can give them some set skills or strategies they can use to help you. Obviously, they shouldn't become a therapist, and they shouldn't be put in that position where they're responsible for you, but empowering them to know, have some ideas on how to support you, and talk about why you're acting the way you're acting, or the way you're feeling, is really, really helpful.
And going off what John said, destigmatizing, and kids, they know what's going on. Especially when it's a sibling or a parent, they know. So you have to put it out there. By sweeping it under the rug, it just makes it even worse than what it likely is. And And kids tend to blame themselves, so being able to say, like, this isn't about you. I know it feels like it's about you sometimes, and sometimes I might lose my temper, but, you know, mom's working on her dopamine levels right now, and I'm doing everything I need to do for self-care, just like I would want you to do for yourself. So it's really about modeling that, destigmatizing and modeling coping skills, and letting them know that it is not their responsibility, that they're part of the journey with you. You can't separate it. But it's not their role to take on to be a caregiver.
And just to add to that, when it's siblings, some of my patients have trouble dealing with a younger sibling who has some kind of difficulty growing up, that they feel a burden that they're missing that parent, and it is important to destigmatize it. Knowledge is power. Get the information out there, but also make sure you're balancing that time in the home. Understand that that child needs you just as much as the other one. And try and, if you need a visual calendar on the fridge, look, it's 50-50. It's okay. Find out the way that it feels good for them and that they feel heard for their needs too. Because it's not enough to say, I understand this child has a different problem, therefore I'm going to give them more attention. That doesn't make any child feel better.
I've got a loud voice. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Great. How do you deal with the reality that adolescent or a teen does require boundaries? They're not yet adults. How do you deal with a parent where you understand they don't have to like you and they don't have to agree with you? That it's not a requirement that they consent to the decisions you make, and that it comes from a place of love. They don't have to even love you. Not even that is a requirement. Am I wasting my time trying to communicate that? Or do you just kind of suck it up, given the fact that they're going to push against those boundaries? It's normal. So what do you do? I mean, you just have to kind of, as a parent...
So if I understand the question, it's about setting boundaries, and even though your teens are mad at you? Okay. So
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Is it even worth trying to calm them down? Say, look, well, you know what?
Okay, so I think...
As a parent, I have a responsibility not to care about setting boundaries. They have to be there, you know? And it's tough.
Yeah, well, I think being a parent is being an actor. You have to pretend like you're cool and calm and like you've got everything under control, even though we're freaking out inside and angry and feeling very powerless. You guys won't like this, close your ears. I think of teens, like the terrible twos and the terrible teens. You know, there's different kinds of tantrums, but they're similar in the fact that they're pushing boundaries and they want to be heard and they want to know they have control and they want you to give in, but at the same time, as soon as you give in to that 2-year-old, they're like, oh shoot, I just like freaked my parents out and they have no control over me. You know, if somebody's got control in the situation, I shouldn't be the one. And so even though that 2-year-old doesn't want to be told no, through repetition and through loving boundaries, acknowledging their feelings and giving them choices when choices are appropriate, is important. It's being able to act like we've got everything together and we're definite on our decision and this is why, even though, you know, tantrums, you know, the 2-year-old or the teen feels like it's the worst thing in the world, it will never end, like everybody's against them. And as parents of that person who's out of control, we feel like we're the worst parent in the world, like it will never end. And it's evolutionary. We feel the way they feel because we don't have the words to explain it. They don't have the words to explain it. It's our job to say, I see you, I hear you, I want to help you. Usually when they're in the middle of a fit, that's not the time. Just like if you're angry and you're having an argument, and I say, calm down. That's when you really need to voice your opinion. Well, it works for teenagers too. The last thing you want to say is calm down. It's really about saying, wow, this is really difficult. I can see you're really angry. I can't talk to you when you're like this, but I'm here when you're ready. The rule still holds. And giving them power when appropriate, giving them other choices.
Yeah, I think they're obviously there will be situations when you're, as a parent, where the boundaries are really clear cut, right? They can't really cross that line. And I think it's really important to enforce that. And as Amanda was saying, reflecting and acknowledging how they feel and how they maybe think it's unfair or you don't love them or reasonable. I think just simply kind of acknowledging that is really, really powerful. And sometimes that in itself will diffuse the situation. But I also think, when kids are in kind of primary school, you're kind of their manager, you manage their lives, their play dates, their homework and stuff. When your child becomes an adolescent, you have to shift to be more of a consultant. And kind of compromising with them and kind of talking to them about things. And I think if you can be a consultant for a lot of things that aren't kind of like safety kind of related, then they're more respectful for the boundaries that you really enforce. And so I think a lot of the teenagers that I work with will actually really respect their parents for being very firm and very kind of specific boundaries, if they're also quite flexible with other areas. For example, like a curfew, for example, if you can consult with your adolescent about what's a reasonable curfew, and negotiate with them, right? Lowball them first, and they'll highball you, and you kind of meet something in the middle that you're still happy with. If you want them at home by 9, say they have to be home by 6, and then they get to 9, you're like, I won. But that's a really, really effective way. And then when you are putting your foot down, they'll be much more willing to listen to that because they realize that this is something really important to you. You're not compromising, you're not in that consulting mode anymore. This is something that's really serious and really important for you. So they'll be much more likely to listen to you and respect that.
I think also with having 2 hats, I think it's a wonderful thing to have because it's so true. It's also the consequences. If you do put a boundary in and I make a rule, my rule in my house is you don't put your feet on my table. So even if it's a guest, I'll let them know, by the way, can you put your foot down? What do you do with your child? I hear you. Do I just give up? What is it? If the boundaries are already there, the consistency and reinforcing them is the first most important thing. Choosing when, but it's the consequences too. Again, if we base everything on a contingency plan, it may fail at some point. So I think that it's very true about engaging them in the negotiation piece. It's probably got a bit more power in it than saying, if you're not home by 9, that's it, I'm taking away your iPhone. They'll get a burner phone somewhere. There's not much that we can pull away from them. We don't want the carrot or the stick. We do want the negotiation piece more frequently than anything else.
And being a parent is a thankless job, right? It's you're doing this for thanks and reward and praise. We're in the wrong line of work, and I think it's you have to be the bad guy sometimes, right? And sometimes for your kids to hate you, it's the right thing for their own safety. Right? There's a part of their brain that isn't developed yet for making these good choices. There's the life experience that you have that they don't, and it's difficult and it's uncomfortable. But it is it's a phase. It's 4 or 5 years the most, right? Easy for me to say, but it's I just think giving some rationale for why you're making that decision. But I don't expect you to understand. But I'll let you know why. You can hate me because of it. But this is because if I let this rule go, I can't live with the consequences. And I love you, and legally I am your caregiver. I am responsible for you, right? More than just love, with the legal system too. And I don't know that responsibility, right? And I'm working through it that way, but it's not easy work.
Thank you. I just wanted to add something on your remarks about dealing with a person in your household who has a mental health issue. That parents should realize that they can't necessarily help with everything, and it's really important to allow your kids to have access to counselors when they need it. I guess you can't say that because that would be self-promoting, but I think parents should be really aware of being able to extend that to their kids.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that for sure. And my son's school has some fantastic counselors, so that's a really good kind of first point of call, just to find out who in the community might be the best kind of resource to access. I think that's definitely true. There are definitely things as parents you can handle, and there are definitely things that maybe out of your skill set.
I think outsourcing for help is very important, especially in a city like Hong Kong, where time is so precious. And how much of your contact time with your child do you want to spend in conflict? Right, versus how much time do you want to spend building happy memories? Because the childhood is like 18 young adults, right, to 24, and then the childhood's over, right? So you really want to try and expose as many happy memories as possible, because it's not worth it.
And just thinking about developmentally, age-wise, teenagers are looking for third parties to listen to. I know with my teenagers, if I tell them eat your broccoli, they go, oh, if the coach says eat the broccoli, this is how much. Yeah, so there is something about third parties, the disinterested third party that can be helpful just by virtue of being a third party sometimes.